Welcome to Have You Read It, the channel where we bring books to life, one summary at a time. Whether you're here for self-help, personal growth, or business inspiration, there's something for everyone. Today, we're diving into Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point, a groundbreaking exploration of how ideas, products, messages, and behaviors spread like viruses do, transforming from small blips on the radar into widespread phenomena. Gladwell kicks off the book by introducing the concept of the tipping point through two intriguing examples: the resurgence of hush puppies' shoes in the mid-90s and the dramatic drop in New York City's crime rate during the same period. He argues that these seemingly disparate events share a common thread. They're both social epidemics, following the same principles as viral outbreaks. The sudden revival of hush puppies, a brand considered virtually dead, began with a handful of hipsters in Manhattan's East Village and Soho. They wore the shoes ironically, precisely because they were out of fashion. This caught the eye of fashion stylists and designers like John Bartlett and Anna Sui, who incorporated hush puppies into their collections. Suddenly, a $30 pair of shoes went from obscurity to a must-have accessory, demonstrating the contagious nature of trends. This contagiousness is a key characteristic of all epidemics, Gladwell argues. He questions our typical understanding of contagion as strictly biological, suggesting that ideas, products, and behaviors can spread virally too. He even uses the simple act of yawning as an example of contagious behavior, highlighting its surprising power to spread through visual, auditory, and even emotional channels. The puzzling plummet in New York City's crime rate is another example of an epidemic in action. Despite incremental changes like a leveling off of the crack trade, a slight aging of the population, and marginal improvements in policing, the crime rate didn't decline gradually, it plummeted. This illustrates another key principle of epidemics. Little changes can have big effects, challenging our typical expectation of proportionality between cause and effect. Gladwell emphasizes the difficulty humans have in grasping geometric progressions, where growth doubles and doubles again, much like a virus spreading through a population or a piece of paper folded over 50 times reaching the sun. Both the hush puppies revival and the New York crime drop occurred rapidly, rather than slowly and steadily. This sudden shift, Gladwell explains, is the essence of the tipping point, a dramatic moment in an epidemic where everything changes at once. He notes how sociologists used the term in the 1970s to describe white flight from urban neighborhoods when the percentage of African American residents reached a certain threshold. The tipping point, therefore, signifies a critical mass, a threshold or a boiling point, where a phenomenon explodes or collapses. Gladwell argues that such tipping points exist for numerous social changes, from fashion trends to technological adoption. To understand how tipping points are reached, Gladwell introduces three key rules: the law of the few, the stickiness factor, and the power of context. The law of the few highlights the crucial role played by exceptional individuals in spreading information and sparking epidemics. These individuals aren't necessarily powerful or wealthy, but possess particular social gifts that make them highly influential. Gladwell categorizes them into three types: connectors, mavens, and salesmen. Connectors are the social glue of society, with an extraordinary ability to make friends and acquaintances. They know lots of people from diverse backgrounds and occupy multiple social worlds, acting as bridges between them. They are masters of the weak tie, the friendly yet casual social connection that Granovetter found so crucial in his study of job seekers. Paul Revere's famous Midnight Ride succeeded because Revere was a connector, deeply embedded in the social fabric of colonial Boston, while William Dawes, carrying the same message, failed to ignite a similar response due to his lack of social connections. Mavens are information specialists, accumulating knowledge and sharing it with others. Driven by a desire to help, they are trusted sources of information, like Mark Alpert, the market maven, who remembers every detail of every purchase and delights in helping others make informed decisions. Mavens provide the message, giving it credibility and weight. Salesmen are the persuaders, possessing the skills to influence and motivate others. Tom Gao, a financial planner, exemplifies the salesman, using his charisma and enthusiasm to win over clients. They are masters of nonverbal communication, utilizing subtle cues like smiles, nods, and vocal inflection to create rapport and trust. The Stickiness Factor emphasizes the importance of making a message memorable and actionable. It's not enough for a message to be contagious. It must also stick in the minds of the audience and motivate them to change their behavior. The creators of Sesame Street, for instance, meticulously engineered the show's content to maximize its stickiness, using techniques like the distractor to gauge children's attention, and making critical adjustments like incorporating the Muppets into the street scenes. This blend of fantasy and reality made the show incredibly engaging and educational, demonstrating the power of subtle changes in presentation to enhance stickiness. Blue's Clues, inspired by Sesame Street, further amplified stickiness by focusing on narrative, repetition, and direct engagement with the audience, proving that even a seemingly simple show could outperform its predecessor by honing in on what makes a message resonate. The power of context underscores the profound influence of environment on behavior. Even small, seemingly insignificant details of a situation can tip an epidemic. The broken windows theory, which posits that minor signs of disorder like graffiti and fare beating invite more serious crimes, exemplifies the power of context. The New York City subway cleanup in the 1990s, focusing on these minor infractions, led to a dramatic drop in crime rates, demonstrating how seemingly small environmental changes can have a large impact. Gladwell discusses the Zimbardo prison experiment, where ordinary students assigned as guards quickly became abusive in a simulated prison environment, and the Hartshorn and May study on children's honesty, where cheating varied significantly based on context, to underscore how easily situations can overpower inherent traits. The fundamental attribution error, our tendency to overestimate the importance of character traits and underestimate the influence of context in explaining behavior, explains why we often fail to appreciate the power of context. The power of context also plays a role in group dynamics. The rule of 150 suggests that there's a natural limit to the size of groups that can function effectively without formal structures. Beyond 150 members, groups become more difficult to manage, communication breaks down, and social cohesion weakens. The Hutterites, a religious community, deliberately split their colonies whenever they approach 150 members to maintain close-knit social bonds. Gore Associates, a successful high-tech firm, follows a similar principle, limiting the size of its plants to around 150 employees to foster a small company ethos and facilitate informal, efficient communication. The concept of transactive memory, where knowledge is distributed among group members based on expertise, helps explain why smaller groups can be so effective. Gladwell examines how these three rules interact in real-world scenarios. The rapid rise of Airwalk shoes in the mid-90s can be attributed to a brilliant advertising campaign that effectively translated the language of youth subcultures into a message that resonated with the mainstream. Lambesis, Airwalk's advertising agency, hired Dee Dee Gordon, a maven of cool, to identify emerging trends among innovators and incorporate those trends into their ads, creating a bridge between the cutting edge and the masses. However, Airwalk's later decline illustrates the importance of maintaining authenticity and respecting core audiences. When Airwalk abandoned its focus on skateboarders and shifted towards a broader market, it lost its cool factor and its connection to the innovators who had initially propelled its success, showing how the law of the few, stickiness, and context are all intertwined. The book also explores less straightforward epidemics, like teenage smoking and suicide. Gladwell argues that teenage smoking is less about rational choices and more about the influence of cool smokers, who act as permission givers for deviant behavior. He suggests that stickiness, in the case of smoking, might be tackled by addressing underlying factors like depression and lowering nicotine levels in cigarettes to prevent addiction. Similarly, he examines the suicide epidemic in Micronesia, where the act became a chillingly familiar ritual among adolescents, highlighting the contagious nature of self-destructive behavior. The main takeaway from the tipping point is that change, even on a large scale, isn't always a complex or gradual process. By understanding the principles of epidemics, the influence of exceptional individuals, the stickiness of messages, and the power of context, we can identify and manipulate the levers of change to create positive social epidemics. Here are some easy-to-remember heuristics from the tipping point. Focus your resources. Concentrate on the key influencers, connectors, mavens, salesmen, and the most receptive contexts. Test your intuitions. Don't rely on assumptions. Gather data and experiment to discover what truly works. Believe in the possibility of change. Small changes, strategically applied, can have dramatic effects. The world is more malleable than we often think. Thanks for watching. Have you read it? Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next book dive.